Why did Nike swoosh mean something to you? Why we want to be like Mike instead of wanting to be like Christ? Why every half the numbers in the NBA is number 23? All of that is branding, mental branding. And then you get a brother like Kyrie, well-read information. And another thing, you take like Jalen Brown, you take Kyrie, you take a couple people, right, who they family is gonna be all right no matter what. You know what I'm saying? I got a couple family members that might ask me for a loan here and there, but my family got jobs, right? So that means that I don't have to listen to nothing nobody got to say. If I want to get rid of all my money and go to like riding skateboards or driving an Uber for the rest of my life, I can do that. But you know what they go and do to the NBA players? They'll be like, well, what about grandma? What about your auntie? You don't want to go back. You don't want to be shamed. You don't, because they got a position. They're going to give you some type of job, some type of Shaquille O'Neal job for the rest of your life as long as you play the game. And with Kyrie, he got 1 year left. They question it like, will he even go, would he go play basketball again? And it's interesting to me. I know you got a question later about Candace Owens. Man, you got to understand, like in 1 week, I went in Trump, Alex Jones, and then I Elon. Like in a matter of 10 days, right? Where's the lies? You know what I'm saying? So, because everybody's beholden to somebody, right? And I got to say, I'm proud of Trump.
So a lot to unpack there. First, the first bar he said was, they got you trying to be like Mike. Why aren't you trying to be like Christ? I mean, that's a pretty epic line. He also talks about how the sports industries control people and basically say, do you want a job? And, I thought about this on Twitter. Let me know what you think about this. I do feel, even though I love sports, I love watching sports, playing sports, I'm an athlete myself, I do think the sports leagues are a form of control because back in ancient days, whether it's Rome, probably Africa, Greece, it wasn't just philosophers. Of course, there were really smart people, but some of the greatest leaders in history were also warriors, physically strong men. I think people that are great physically, mentally, and they're taking all of the greatest physical specimens of our time. If you're not in the MMA, you don't have the right to speak freely. They're probably the only ones, but you get to play for this league. And then they control what you say, control what you think. So they're taking some of our strongest men, which used to be the leaders of society and the leaders of war, and basically you're being controlled by the Adam Silvers of the world into being pro BLM, pro, rainbow flag, but you can't criticize their agenda. So I do think it is kind of a form of control. And he says, they put these cushy, Shaquille O'Neal jobs over your head and say, do you want this or do you want to speak your mind? I thought that was great.
And all journalists know that there's some things you don't write about and you don't talk about because you'll lose your job. And that's where the control is. And that's why they pay anchormen like Dan Rather $2 million a year. Because he doesn't question them. He knows that if he goes against them, he's going to lose $2 million a year. Do you think a man that looks pretty and sits in front of a TV camera for the 6 o'clock news is worth $2 million a year? No way. I don't care how long he works and I don't care what he does. There is no job worth $2 million a year. That's why they pay athletes these fantastic salaries. I was listening to the radio the other day. They just contracted to pay one player on one team $6 million a year. Can you believe this?
And why is that?
It's the Roman circus. What does the emperor do when the people become restive? And when the people are asking questions and when the people don't like the policies of the emperor? He sends them to the circus. He creates a circus. He builds a giant coliseum. And he begins to throw the Christians to the lions. And he has great chariot races and football games and basketball games, all to keep the idiots preoccupied with things that don't mean anything in the scheme of the entire world, so that they don't have the time to learn what the truth is, so they don't ever get smart enough to learn how they're being manipulated, so they don't ever question the emperor. That's why they pay a player on a football team or a baseball team $1 million or $2 million or $3 million a year. It is the Roman circus. I know men who don't know anything in the world except who plays third base for the Mets. And they think that's a great accomplishment. And they meet and pat each other on the back and bond and go have cocktails and talk about what this guy that plays third base for the Mets did in last night's game. It's sad. It's really sad.